Hey guys, it's Pineapple, and I want to talk about this week's chapter of My Hero Academia, and of course we're going to talk about the spoilers for chapter 343. There's quite a bit that happens this chapter, and it feels like the series is going crazy fast as soon as this chapter came out and you see all the things that happen. So hold on to your seat, try not to get lost in the whirlwind of events that's about to happen, and let's get to it. The chapter begins with All For One in the cave, saying that lies don't work against him. It's because of a quirk that he stole from a man years ago, and he says that ironically enough, that guy has a descendant that operates side by side with All Might. Now we know that Tsukauchi is an officer that works closely with All Might and UA, and early on there was a big theory that Tsukauchi was quirkless, but Horikoshi revealed along with a sketch that his hero name was True Man, and that his quirk allowed him to tell whether or not somebody was lying. It doesn't go into the method of activation, but we know in Vigilantes that Tsukauchi's sister Makoto has a similar quirk, where she can tell if someone is lying to her as long as she's making physical contact with them. This adds a bit of backstory to the Tsukauchi family, since now we might know another reason that Tsukauchi is so serious about his hunt for All For One. It sounds like one of his ancestors, maybe even his father or grandfather, had their quirk stolen by All For One. At the very least, the story of how that happened would be sure to pass down in this family of detectives, so I'm happy to have that extra bit of information on a character that's been around in the story since the beginning, especially since we are nearing the end here. Next, we see All For One start a conversation with Aoyama's mother, where he passes off a message disguised in a conversation about wine. He says he's in the mood for a Macallan. Macallan? I don't know fancy wines. And Aoyama's mom says that her son can deliver it to him the next day. During this conversation and in this context, All For One is referred to as Uncle, and after the conversation is over, he confirms to himself that no lies have been told, meaning that this quirk allows him to tell whether someone is lying even through the phone, and that is very dangerous. That's a very dangerous quirk to have. And it's also going to make it really interesting, I think, to reread the series and see all the times where maybe someone was talking to All For One and maybe not being honest, since this means he saw through it the entire time and makes tricking him or trapping him so much more difficult. From here we then see Deku going to meet Aoyama with a cell phone in his hand, and Deku's wearing a new costume, but the internet is kind of crossed on what color it might be, right? Like in the panels, which I can't show, it kind of looks like a jumpsuit in a darker color, maybe black, but the sections on the side that are usually darker are now white. This paired with the new gauntlets and Gran Torino scarf are our look at Deku's final design, and I gotta say that it does really look pieced together, but there's something about it that I like. Aoyama thanks Deku for coming, but Deku's confused because he thought that Aoyama was still in prison. After answering that his parents' lawyers have arranged for his acquittal, Midoriya starts to turn and tell the other students, but Aoyama stops him and questions if Deku would like to know All For One's real plan. Aoyama says that the destruction of Japan will be followed by a devaluation of the yen and the bankruptcy of many Japanese companies. The social instability will lead to an increase in the number of villains and widespread chaos, being similar to the Great Depression or the period of the rise of quirks. Other countries will prioritize their own and deny any aid to Japan, as they already have, but in the long run this will lead to an international conflict where each seeks to only maintain their own internal security. In this devastated scenario, who will be the one to provide water for the nations in need? Gas, electricity. All these resources can be generated with the quirks that All For One possesses. Now this plan pretty much tells us that All For One wants to make the world destroy itself, then rule over the pieces by deciding who gets what and putting everyone in his debt. We know that he loves it when someone owes him a favor, so what better way to rule the world than by forcing them all to dance and do as you please to be able to continue to go about their daily lives. All For One wants to be the overlord of the entire world, and with One For All out of the way, there's really nothing stopping him from hunting down quirk users around the world who think that they're going to be able to oppose him or stop his plan. It's truly terrifying, and as the quote goes, no one man should have all that power. Midoriya says that it's still too early to predict this apocalyptic scenario since they're all still here to stop All For One. Aoyama apologizes though and says that in the end he still wants to protect the safety of his mother and his father. Now shockingly, as he cries, we see All For One floating behind Aoyama. This panel is really cool, but again also a little shocking, because damn, it feels like things are starting to fly by at a breakneck pace, but it even picks up more as the chapter continues. Deku seems confused, and All For One praises Aoyama's actions, asking if it was his parents who told him about his final plan. This pretty much confirms that the plan is true, and All For One pretty much promises that people would be happier with things going the way that he wants them. Which of course, you know, is the classic anime villain, I want to rule the world and people would be happy if I did. Deku shouts that he trusted Aoyama, and Aoyama starts bowing, crying, and shaking, But what he does next is turn around and quickly shoot a laser in All For One's direction. All For One used an airwave to quickly dodge the shot, and he calls Aoyama a fool for betraying him. Deku starts saying that Aoyama's performance was very realistic, showing that all of this has been a ruse, and Aoyama replies that it's the only way to fool an opponent of that level, because he had to try the hardest on his flamboyant performance. But of course, Aoyama has to add that Deku's performance wasn't half bad either, and he was surprised at how good he was able to lie, which kind of reminds me of when these two were learning how to dance together at the school festival, right? Where they were both kind of the worst dancers and they had to learn, and that's really where their friendship started to grow. Now, we're not out of the woods yet just because Aoyama shot a laser at All For One and he dodged it, and Aoyama is still shaking, but he shouts that he'll face All For One to protect his parents. Here, All For One is very confused, because remember, it was just established that he has a quirk that can tell him whether or not someone is lying. He starts remembering the conversation that he had with Aoyama's mother and confirming once again that there was no trace of falsehood in her speech. But why? Could it be that Aoyama technically did deliver Deku to All For One? That might be so, but All For One decides to stop trying to look for an explanation and focuses on the fact that One For All is right in front of him, while taking his jacket off and showing like this cool vest that he has over his shirt, like his undershirt, that I don't think we've seen before. And also, I forgot to mention that he has this cool new hood, right? He's not wearing the same, he's not kind of like naked faced like he has been for so long. He has like a brand new metal kind of Vader hood that spills off to the sides, and it's really, really cool. And it's kind of reminiscent of his black mask that he wore during Kamino, but it's like another black mask, very metallic and in that same style, but it's way bigger and it goes down to his shoulders. So he takes off his jacket and he says that Tamura has observed many heroes using a search quirk during the war, and none of them are anywhere nearby. So Deku's chance of winning is 0. At this time, a bunch of villains begin to appear through the black goo teleportation quirk that All For One has had ever since Kamino, and we see various generals from the last war arc, some new villains we haven't seen before, and of course Toga, Dabi, and Shigaraki. Now, of course, I have to mention that Dabi is wearing a fresh new all-white outfit, which is looking pretty awesome, but aside from the drip, this is a terrifying situation. Or it would be if Deku hadn't planned for this exact moment. You see, here when all seemed lost, a small portal begins to form behind Aoyama. Now, if you remember last chapter, we saw Monomo with Aizawa as they looked at Kurogiri in his medical chamber. So of course it seems like Aizawa had Monomo copy his friend's quirk, and then he brought Monomo to the spot where Deku would meet Aoyama, and then back to the spot where all the heroes are gathered, so that when the time was right, Monomo could finally feel like the main character and use his quirk to subvert the main villain by giving My Hero Academia its endgame moment and opening portals for a legion of heroes, with everyone from Endeavor to Mirko and beyond showing up on the battlefield at the same time as the villains. Aoyama says that the rest of the world knows that Japan is not yet doomed to failure. A light of hope still shines, and if Japan holds on to it, the whole world will come together, and that's why everyone has to defeat him here and now. This very much echoes something that I've been saying, which is All For One's biggest fear is society coming together and supporting Deku. Right now, All For One has control, but if they all band together towards one goal, then something impossible can happen. If you remember the overhaul arc, the impossible became possible because everyone worked together and focused their energy on Deku and the one goal that they were all working towards, which was saving Eri. It proved that with cooperation, anything is possible, even something that Night Eye's quirk said wasn't. Here they have to do the same thing on a much grander scale, but it can be done. All For One can be defeated, and the ones who do that in these circumstances where people have very little faith and Japan has been abandoned by the rest of the world are going to be seen as the greatest heroes. So it's time to watch that happen, and that is the end of the chapter. I love you guys, it's Pineapple, I'll see you guys next week, peace.